when you bring the humanness to your marketing, you're going to see a huge shift happen. If there's something happening in your life that is affecting you in a big way, the more that you can just be vulnerable and real and share about it, that is leading with authenticity. And you will attract so many more people because they're going to see who you are in tough times. This might be a personal moment where you might have to look in the mirror and say, who am I in tough times? What you're building isn't just a brand, it's the work and story God trusted you to carry. Welcome to Heard in Heaven. I'm Rae Irelan, best-selling author, global speaker, and co-founder of Evolve Podcasting, where our clients have reached over 3 million downloads. This show is where Holy Spirit revelation meets CEO execution, so your message doesn't just inspire, it multiplies. It's time to speak with fire, shake the earth, and be heard in heaven. Today, we're talking about why you don't need a huge following to really have a successful personal brand and how you can start making an impact and building that meaningful business with authenticity and connection and confidence, no matter where your numbers are at. I love this real world example of Nike. Nike didn't become Nike overnight. We walk around, you're pretty much used to having someone when you're out and about wear Nike, right? It's a huge, unbreakable brand. But in the beginning, Phil Knight was just selling his shoes out of the trunk of his car. Yes, seriously, at local track meets. Because instead of focusing on massive sales, he actually realized that what he wanted to do was really focus on building relationships with a very specific audience, a passionate audience. And who would be the most passionate audience for athletic shoes? Runners, right? So runners had a deep understanding of the importance of a good shoe. And so that's what Phil did. He made this connection to this small community and allowed them to help him innovate the products until it ended up expanding into global markets, right? And that's exactly what you can do with your personal brand. And if you think in this way, where you can be really truly serving the people who need you most, that's going to create such a deep core foundation for you to expand upon. So, a well-tended garden can definitely produce a more bountiful harvest than this huge open field that does not have intentionality and consistency. So that's what we're looking at today when it comes to building your personal brand. A lot of times, I think people actually see the huge, vast land and they're like, oh my gosh, so much to build. And that's really where I see people losing out of energy, momentum, and steam because they're actually going for something that they're not quite ready for. So when you build in this way, you're going to really be taking steps where you're going to be able to take care of yourself as an entrepreneur and keep that beautiful work-life balance really alive, really flowing. Just imagine like that constant pressure of measuring your worth against your numbers. It's going to destroy you as an entrepreneur. And you know what it does? It leaves us feeling empty, disconnected from the real reason why we're even doing it. And it usually pulls us out of even working in our strengths and the true passions that are there within the business. And it totally puts us in this place of just feeling stuck in this mindset of really having to have so many sacrifices to hit these numbers, hit these goals, sacrifice authentic connections, and the joy that comes when you are a building entrepreneur. I don't want you guys to miss out on this. I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to connect with the people that are right in front of you and really unleash your unique voice and your story because it's going to land so much more impactfully for the right person. And when you share in that type of way, aligning, like we said on the last episode, I was sharing about aligning with your core values and really just knowing your purpose, knowing your unique voice, and then confidently navigating that path and working one step at a time to get closer and closer to really staying in your unique genius zone. I want to just share a little bit of 5-step process that you can do to fully embody and know what you're going to be measuring your personal brand against. So that way you can stay confident, stay aligned as you're building. So, step number one, identify that unique value proposition based on your passions and your values. And I want to say this isn't going to be something that you ace and right from the start. This actually might take years of reinvention and bringing things into conversation with people. And that's exactly what Nike did. I know running shoe, that's not what he started with, right? It probably got developed after repetition and people running in them and then people winning races. And then also probably like shoelaces, I imagine them like busting open and total failures, right? Of a shoe, like the sole falling off. So you got to be prepared and just know that that's part of business. And the more that you can just laugh about it and realize that everyone is going through it, the better of a time that you're going to have along the way. So step number two is then going to be all around creating content. So create content, whether that is, it might actually be like marketing content, or that might be the products that you're actually offering and selling, and let those resonate with your core audience, right? As you focus on quality over quantity, you're going to see a increase in retention, an increase in your super fans group. And in the beginning, you do really want to nurture those people because that's how things are going to move forward. I have so many people that come to me and they are so bummed and upset with other marketing companies that they've worked with, and they feel like they've really gotten taken advantage of and haven't seen the results. I might be speaking to your heart a little bit, or like a tender part of your heart if you've done this before. One of the biggest things I see is that people go to the marketing agencies and they imagine that this is going to be like a quick fix and all of a sudden they're going to be in front of all the right people and doing the thing. What you need to do first is make sure that you're testing your products and your offers with your ideal audience, and that your ideal audience is buying them as a no-brainer, as an easy peasy. This is an of course sale. The ROI is so clear. And I'm also not talking about just like low ticket. This is high ticket as well. But as soon as you have something that is confirmed, it has been sold multiple times, that's when you can actually go into full expansion mode. Don't jump the gun here. Make sure you take the time to do that market research and really figure out what is going to resonate most deeply with my ideal customers and clients. Now, step number three is going to be engaging with your community. And this is going to take consistency and it's going to take authenticity to build that trust and loyalty. Another thing that I see often are people come to me and they are just putting on this thing of perfection. And it's because they want it to be so good and they do have an excellence to them. You're a high achiever and you want everything to look amazing. But don't forget like the humanness. When you bring the humanness to your marketing and the way that you're communicating and engaging with your community, you're going to see a huge shift happen. And I'm going to tell you, it might be uncomfortable. There were so many times where I stand up at an event or online, I'm in a group and I decide to take the mic and I say something that is just so real and truly authentic. And I can get so emotional very easily. So sometimes I even start crying and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I even say? That was just like an emotional share. And then all these people end up coming up to me being like, I loved your share. It was so inspiring. Like you spoke right to my heart. And I'm like, really? I don't even remember what I said because I just felt like I was crying and I was embarrassed. You don't absolutely don't put this on. Don't do it for fakes, right? We're talking about authentic here. But there is something to be said with being okay with being authentic, being okay with being in your mess, and actually really sharing what is actually going on. Way too many entrepreneurs have this thing where their business happens outside of their home. And this figuratively, right? So they have all this stuff happening in their life, like inside their home. And once they get into their business, they just step out, they close the doors, and then they get into their cute car and they do life, they do business. It's just this perfect thing. No one knows about everything else that's happening. And I'm just going to say it's a disservice to the people that you're leading to not let them in on what is actually happening. Now, I'm not saying to air out your dirty laundry. at all. And there is an appropriate balance to this. But if there's something happening in your life that is affecting you in a big way, the more that you can just be vulnerable and real and share about it, that is leading with authenticity. And you will attract so many more people because they're going to see who you are in tough times. This might be a personal moment where you might have to look in the mirror and say, who am I in tough times? Do I like how I'm showing up in tough times? Am I willing to share this? Am I willing to show this? And that is an incredible personal journey to go on. I love saying that entrepreneurship is one of the best personal growth experiences you could ever do because of things like this. So you might say, wow, I actually don't love how I'm showing up in this situation. That is why I want to keep it behind closed doors and I want to put a wall up in between my personal life and my business life. But perhaps there's actually a way to go about things differently and change them and show up differently. And as you do that, that will impact how you're doing business. And the more that you can bring people along that journey as you're gaining insight and wisdom, or as you're maybe even going to mentors or coaches or counselors to work on things, you'll just be able to be that wisdom holder that gets to share that with others as well. Okay. So as we go into step 4, let's recap. Step 1 is identifying those unique value propositions. Step 2 is creating content or products that really resonate with your audience or your customers. Step 3 is engaging with your community consistently and authentically. Now, step 4, this is going to be one that most people don't do. They just do the 3, they cycle through, and they wonder why things aren't moving forward. Step 4 is all about tracking your progress through specific, achievable metrics aligned with your core values. So this is not going to look like every other business, right? You don't have to have the same metrics, but you want to take those core values that you set up prior and track your progress along the way. The more consistently you track your progress, the easier it is going to be to see where do things change and shift. What are there different decisions or actions that I'm doing or not doing that are affecting the outcome? So I personally love doing a weekly check-in, and I do a weekly check-in with myself. I do a weekly check-in with my main team and the leaders in my company. And that really helps us all just stay accounted for and aligned with. And we can make quick decisions to move if we start to see a trend of something going downhill, whether it is a client experience, or maybe there's technology, or maybe it's one of the team members was falling out of their responsibility. We can catch it early enough to make a new detour, create a new game plan, and not have it lead towards the entire building falling down. This is so important. And I wish I did this earlier. I remember hearing other people tell me I should be doing this. And to tell you the truth, I just never did. It felt like I was almost always in chase mode of trying to do all of the other business stuff, that this one thing, tracking metrics, would get thrown behind. So when it comes to the question of, how big of a following do I need to really have a personal brand and make an impact? You're going to want to be watching and tracking your progress of who you're connecting with, who you're engaging with, and what your community, how they're growing and what they're engaging with you on. A lot of times I've also seen even some small communities and there's huge engagement. And those clients, when they maybe launch a podcast, launch a new program or an offer or a product, immediately sales come in. And it's because all of this has been established prior. And this is in comparison to some very big social media celebrities that have come to us to work with us as an agency. But then we look at like their engagement levels and it's so low that it's actually going to be even harder for them to connect and relate and meet with their ideal customer and client, because there's such a mess, like a fog on social media, right? Because their audience is so big, but their engagement is so low. So you do want to track the progress, and you can definitely track numbers growing. But again, this is not the core intention or thing that you really need to be tracking. In fact, when it even comes to podcasting, we talk about not just the download rates, the download numbers, but we go into many more details around how long episodes are being consumed, at what point are listeners falling off, those types of things. And still, the most important metric that we follow is revenue per listener. And so that's a new way that you can start to look at it: revenue per listener, revenue per follower, revenue per community member. And this is going to really start to get your mind turning on how you can make the biggest impact. Because if people are buying your product, that means you're making a big impact and you're creating enough of an ROI for them. So if there's not revenue being created, then something is off. And you can go back to that step 2, where you're really creating a product or offer that actually resonates with your audience. Okay, moving into step number 5, this is adjusting your strategies based on the feedback, based on the outcomes, and continuing to grow in impact. Again, this is exactly what Phil of Nike did, is just adjust and change and tweak. And I am always getting let's see. So I love the idea of simplify to amplify, right? You simplify everything so that way things can be there can be a bigger impact, there can be a deeper resonance. And oftentimes when you're like trying to tweak strategies, things can start to get a little complex. So I don't want you to try things that are changing what you're doing or adding too many new things, but it's these little tweaks and little adjustments that actually make the biggest difference in your marketing and your message and your branding and the way that you do sales. So as you're looking at this idea of how big your following is, again, don't totally change everything up, because otherwise it's going to confuse your listeners and your audience even more. Okay, so I want you all to take one bold step today. I'm going to invite you into taking a step of leadership by just vocalizing your faith-driven mission in a meeting or on social media. I want you to just declare it. This is that initial stride to let your light guide others and just say, this is where I'm going. You're welcome to come along, and invite them. Be the one that has the invitation. More often than not, people are just waiting for you to invite them in. They're waiting for you to invite them to the masterclass, to the event, to buy the product. And if people are just waiting, we're waiting for leaders just like you who know actually what is going to be best for me, what is going to be good for me as a customer. So take that initiative and don't get stuck after this step. As you take the initiative, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is uncovering the secrets to transforming your content into a conversion powerhouse. I know you guys are going to love this episode, because as soon as you just start to see the numbers and how they're different, they aren't just numbers. It's not just followers. Sometimes we'll post something. I used to feel this all the time. I would post something and I would see 10 viewers, right? Or even 50 likes. And I'm like, oh, that's so low. And it's all comparative, right? Whatever your low number is. Then I want you to think of actually having 10 people in your kitchen that you're talking directly to and sharing your message with, let alone 50 people in your kitchen. The numbers get tainted and it's like things get distorted, right? And we're just chasing numbers. Oh, we got to get to 10,000 likes or 100,000 followers. But what does that actually mean? That's an amphitheater. That's a stadium we're talking about, right? So I think when we really bring that heart of gratitude, that we get to connect with people, that we get to change their lives, that we get to give them something that is actually going to benefit their life and make it better. Wow, what an incredible opportunity and responsibility we have. So next up, let's talk about that content conversion rate and what it looks like, how you can become that content powerhouse that is creating sales, generating revenue with all the content that you're building. Your voice carries weight, not just for today, but for eternity. If this episode stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, let it ripple. If you're ready to launch a platform that amplifies your message and multiplies your impact, I'm here to help. Start your journey with the link in the show notes down below. Subscribe, leave a review, and remember, when you speak with fire, you don't just shake the earth, you echo in heaven.